Guten yardening, everybody! Well, it's beautiful out, and this is one of our favorite times of the year. But what this means is that the winds of change are really blowing in. This time of year also means that some of the crops that we've been waiting for months are ready to start coming out of the ground.
It's at these times of change and transition that we're finally able to come over here to our sweet potato bed, one of our sweet potato beds, and see what 4 months of loving, tender care has hopefully provided. We don't know. You know, with sweet potatoes spread out like this, it's hard to see below the surface. This is an 18 square foot setup, a 3x6 raised bed, although you couldn't tell it looks like 10 by 5 right now because of all this greenery. So the first thing we have to do is get in here and start to cut out some of that greenery. All right, let's get this out of here. I'm already seeing evidence of something that we were a little bit worried about, and I'll bring you in here in just a second. But after our Ruth Stout harvest, one of the things we noticed was what appeared to be some vole damage. And this looks like it would have been a really nice sized sweet potato that vole or something else came in and ate up. Well, I hope we didn't lose too much. Now, as we remove all these greens, you might be crying out at the computer or phone or whatever you're watching this on that these greens are edible, and that's true. We're not going to save any of these greens. There's quite a bit of insect damage. I mean, it's not as bad as in years past, but the insect damage from the Japanese beetles and what have you, but we're not saving them this time around. This is succession planting, though, and that's something that I think we've talked a good bit about on this channel. Prior to having the sweet potatoes in here, we had spinach. We had spinach covering this whole bed, and it was, I think, 4 or 5 different varieties of spinach, luscious greens. We have frozen almost 80 servings of spinach and used that spinach in our breakfast smoothies. So this is the second crop in here. We hope that it did just as well as that spinach. Hope we did it a lot better than the spinach. This looks like some sort of mushroom or fungus, I think. Well, they say mushrooms are the sign of healthy soil. We're going to read it as that, although I've never seen one like this before. I have to look into what exactly that is. There's some serious weight to these. I think that's one of the things you have to remember when you're considering which varieties to grow. And we do have a couple of different varieties in here. Some of them these are vining varieties. You can tell, here, I just pull this over. You can see this is just going to keep vining out, keep growing, as long as we let it grow long, until the season changes. But if you don't have a ton of room, this might not be a variety that you would enjoy. You might instead try for a bush variety, which we've planted several of those as well around here. Oh, look at this. So this vine, and this is a good example of understanding how sweet potatoes grow. This vine simply touched the ground. That's all that happened. It touched the ground, and where it touched the ground at this nodule here, it sprouted roots. So if given time, and we certainly don't have enough time for this to develop, but if given time, this would have grown into more sweet potatoes. We've only cleared out, well, I'd say a little less than half the bed, but already we can see there's just been a tremendous amount of damage in here. A tremendous amount. I mean, the soil itself is dug up. So these critters getting in here are just doing a job on this. I hope they left us some. the best thing to do here is to start at one end and work to the other. We'll see what we have. So you can see, if you look closely, I've pulled back most of the greens. You can see where these slips started. And what we did in planting these, again, this year we planted them closer together than we have in years past. But we did a row of 3, and then we did a staggered row of 2, and then back to a row of 3. So we have about 20 slips that we're growing in 18 square feet. So again, we'll see how these turn out, how they produce. Oh, look at this. I don't know if I want to touch this. I don't know if it'll sting me, but you see lots of these different critters growing down in here. All right, I'm going to be really careful. Don't want to damage any of the potatoes. We already see enough damage. We'll try to take care of whatever else might be down in here. Okay. These are a little thin. The beautiful color. You can see the one that came off from the damage. We'll get down in there. These are going to be just fine, just delicious. So the little ones like this, they're nice and tender. We'll eat those, and I have to be really careful. Looks like I just scratched this one. Don't want to scratch them. That'll really cut down on storage time. But these will go soft, kind of wrinkly really quickly. So we want to eat these up first. These will last a little bit longer. You can see if we had another month of growing time and no voles, these would get even bigger. Let's see. Now this is interesting because we're seeing this particular variety is giving us the same exact thing, really long, kind of thin, but beyond that initial voles eating some of them, there's really no damage on these at all. I'm keeping my fingernails away from it as best I can. They're so easy to scratch. There we go. Those look pretty nice. Again, we're noticing a trend here of the thinner, longer ones, but again, not a thing in the world wrong with these. Nice and tasty. I'm gonna break them off close to the slip itself so we don't cause any damage farther down on them. That's just about as important as when you're digging them up. Gently. There we go. Yeah, that works. Look at the color difference in these sweet potatoes. This is already a beautiful, beautiful color palette. All right. The less damage you can do, the better off the storage life will be. And that's really what we are looking for in the amount of sweet potatoes we grew this year. All right, here we go. Let's cut this, set it free. Out it comes. 3 or 4 nice ones there. And again, can't complain about the little ones either because they're tasty too. I put my finger around this one and I pulled up. Clearly it wasn't loose enough at the time because it broke off, but also even just holding and putting the pressure and my finger slipping a little bit has peeled the skin back. This one will have to be eaten first. But you can see just how deep. This one was all the way down at the bottom. So this is about 20, yeah, I'd say 18 inches of soil to the bottom there. So this one was digging the whole way down. So when we go back through here, after we've dug up the main piece, it'll be interesting to see just how far some of these are down here. But I'll come back for that later. All right, we're clearing this one out. You can see some of the devastation. There are 4, looks like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 sweet potatoes that just got, well, this one as well. So 5 of these that just got aggressively attacked. We have these 4. Here's our 5th one. All eaten up at the top. but the biggest one was spared. So we look at it from that way. For some reason, the vole didn't want the biggest one, so we'll take the biggest one. That's okay. Just love that color. There's so many varieties this time around. I think we planted a total of 7 varieties of sweet potatoes. And that's kind of one of the bonuses of planting a lot of varieties, is you can see which ones are going to perform best for you. So I can feel a really nice grouping right here. All right, we're going to try to pull gently. We're attached. Look at that. That is lovely. Like a bunch of fingers. Looks almost like bananas. I'll spread them out across here. Again, some of the damage I've done here pulling them out. Ever so gentle. But they're beautiful. Here they come. It's kind of exciting. Such a range of sizes. All edible. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep these together like this. It'll be easier to move that way. Just gently place them over here. Okay, this is the 3rd variety, it looks like. Huh. You can also see that these did not grow as much. Same variety again. Same result again. These look more like carrots. I'm wondering if voles have a specific taste bud, because if we look over here, the red sweet potatoes don't have very much damage, but these lighter ones definitely do. So I'm wondering if they have a preference. Maybe there's a difference in the smell. I don't really know. Ooh, it's heavier. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Some really nice big ones in here. So we're gonna keep all of our damaged ones together and see what kind of loss we had as we go through and weigh everything. That one. Like a musical note or something. So again, you can already see this from our yield so far, but it's not just about having different tastes for the reasoning, the rationale behind why we plant multiple varieties of sweet potatoes. But again, it's not knowing necessarily what the yield is going to be like. Well, the first time we tried planting sweet potatoes, we planted them in our 50-gallon drums that were sideways, the blue ones, that we cut in half. And there just really wasn't enough depth. You can see it right here. There wasn't enough depth because these things, the roots just go, well, you can see it right here, they go a mile. Really long roots. Regardless of the size, the weight continues to build. Oh, that's a nicer one. That area is pretty loose. One loss. The rest are fine. There's some more down in here. This one's both of these eaten up. But really, if we're looking at it, there are a whole bunch more that weren't eaten up than were. So that initial surveillance of I guess the initial damage that we were seeing could have been much worse. Could have definitely been much worse. If you've had this experience before with your sweet potatoes or just in general, I would love to know what you do to prevent some of this damage from voles. We're not using any chemicals. We don't use chemicals. We're not getting a cat. Thank you for asking. One thing we might try is a mesh that we can put over the soil once we, at original planting time, but with a holes that are big enough for watering, etc., but small enough that the voles can't get through. And I think then they'll sprout through this. That would be one possibility to try to prevent this crop damage. But I know that there's a lot of experts out there. I know quite a few of you who watch these videos have had far more experience, far more years of experience of growing sweet potatoes than we have. So we would value your suggestions, your advice when it comes to preserving our crop a little bit better, getting rid of some of that damage. There is a nice one right here. I'll be really careful with. There we go. A couple really nice ones in here. Clear that soil away. Yeah, those are beauties. And there's one more sticking out of the ground that didn't want to come. Now that's nice too. It's hard to be disappointed when you're seeing sweet potatoes like this. Really difficult to. Enjoying it. We're halfway through the bed, a little bit more than halfway through the bed, and this is our harvest so far. Nothing to sneeze at. And this is one of 3 raised beds. And one of our raised beds is about twice this size. So one of 3 raised beds, one of 4 different container, etc., growing styles. And so, again, this goes back to why we don't just plant in one area. I'm liking, let's see. I'm liking what I'm seeing from quite a few of these potatoes, these sweet potatoes. And we've seen that there are definitely sweet potatoes growing in our hay method. There are definitely potatoes growing in each of our other container styles as well. And so, getting in here, seeing what we have in here is, it's important to note how this does. It's also important to note that the reasoning behind pulling these now isn't just the air and soil temperature. It's the voles. So we're going to have another week next week that's supposed to warm back up just a little bit. So even though the soil temperature is lower, we could leave them in a little bit longer, but what's the point of letting these go to waste? By the way, what do you do when you have potatoes, sweet potatoes that are damaged? Potatoes or sweet potatoes that are damaged like this? Do you still eat them? Do you give them to your worms? What do you do with them? It's a question we have to answer here very shortly. But we don't want any more of these to go to waste. So it's going to be essentially a rush to harvest these, because even though, again, it might warm up a little bit next week, we don't want to lose any more of our sweet potatoes to these critters. Look at these. Look at how these would have been. This one in particular would have been a really nice one, but there it is. This soil is just a pleasure to work in. Look at that. Easy to work in. It's lightweight. It's not dense. It's not going to compact on you. And this goes back to the soil mixture that we showed a few months ago that we put in our raised beds and in our pots, our potting mix as well. So you should check out that video. You see that? Those are gardener hands. Those are yardener hands. Oh, that soil underneath the fingernails doesn't bother me one bit. I'll get it cleaned out eventually. But that just means we're working with the land. Working with the land, and you can't go wrong. Look at this. Uncovering these natural beauties in here. All right, let's see. Look at this. This plant sitting there just waiting for me to pull it up. Oh, pull it up out of the ground. I think we can eat it. What do you think? I think we can eat it. All right, here we go. Look at this one. Oh, this is, okay, I'm gonna hold off on that one. I think it's the biggest one so far. Could be wrong. I think it's the biggest one so far. Look at these. All right. All the ones around it coming out. Looks like a little egg in here. It's not an egg. Well, I wasn't wrong. This is by far the biggest sweet potato that we've pulled out of here. I can tell. There. Lovely, lovely. I'm gonna pull up the next door. Oh. The Voles know quality. What can I say? They know quality when they smell it. I don't think this one's attached to anything. I think this one's just, oh, oh, oh. It's not that big a deal, train. Yeah, this one did not develop in the same way. This is really interesting. I think this is a master course in what not to pull out of the ground, because what I just did, and you can see it right here. Can you see it? What I just did was disconnected everything from this one, because I thought it was a lot looser. I thought it was closer to the surface, but what clearly happened is these dug down. So if I go back over here and I go deeper, I'm going to find the rest of these, and that means these are going to have to be eaten quickly because I just pulled the tops off. So we've exposed part of the sweet potato that we didn't want to expose. There's one of them. So you can see where I pulled off. They really, really dug down in there. Mistakes were made, and actually though, the damage isn't too bad there on the end. So maybe that's not the worst thing that could have happened. Maybe not. I'll come back for you. Oh, there it is. There's the next one. Oh, it's okay. Come take a look at this. See if you can get a shot right down in here. This one came over and grew right down along the interior. So it's right here. So kind of hard to get to, but it was right up against the wall, right down in there. A nice one, but scratched up against the wall of the raised bed as I was pulling it out as well. So that's why. Oh, there's another one right beside it. Yeah, there it is. So that's where that challenge came from. That's one of the reasons why it was so difficult pulling them out of there, because they're right up against the side and deep like that. Yeah, that's what happened. We got a quarter of the bed, maybe a little less than a quarter of the bed left. We're almost done. The sun is setting. So we're gonna have a nice sunset here, a nice fall sunset. Oh, it's my absolute favorite time of the year. I cannot stress enough how fun it is to work in this soil. You're like a little kid coming out here playing in the dirt. The only difference is that I'm gonna be able to take what I make inside, and it's not a mud pie. I can actually eat it. We can eat it. Oh, look at this one. Pulled it off at the top. Look at that. Beautiful. These red ones seem to have buried themselves pretty purposefully here. Let's see. Yeah, there's more down in there, definitely. Yeah, these are, that's nice. Way down in there. I can only imagine if our soil wasn't loose like this, what kind of damage pulling them out of a coarser soil or a more compacted soil would be, because again, ours, well, you can see no problem there, and they're still getting scratched up just coming through that soil. All right. More that seem to like the comfort of the side of this raised bed. Potato harvest a lot of fun. Sweet potato harvests may be more fun. I don't know. We have to put it in a competition. You gotta let me know. What do you prefer? You prefer that sweet potato harvest? Do you prefer a potato harvest? Which one do you like to harvest more? You gotta let me know. Oh, that's a tough call. That's a tough call. Poor thing. Pull these out just a little bit because I'm seeing, again, some damage here to some of them, but not to all of them. This one, you know, something else I'm noticing at points. I mean, we're up closer here where we have a little bit of shade in the evenings from this raised bed onto here. I mean, I really don't think the sun comes across here all day. I don't think that necessarily had anything to do with the fact that these are a little bit smaller, but you never know. Seriously? That's all you left me? Come on, Voles. So close. Mama and all the babies here. Let's see if we've got another one in here. Stragglers. Couple stragglers. No, couple stragglers, huh? There we go. Say hello. Hello to the world right here. Oh. These are nice. Oh, anticipation. Oh, it's coming out nicely. Ooh, look at that. I'm gonna lay this one out. Look at that. Boy, if we had another month, huh? Let's see what our last one holds for us, what it's got waiting in store. They've got long roots. Apparently it didn't want to come out. It flashed me with dirt. All right, as we finish up, there's something that I didn't tell you about this bed. One, these were leftover slips. So this whole bed was planted a little bit after our main bed. And again, some of them were cuttings from other sweet potatoes that had already started to grow out. So we took slips off of those. So realistically, these sweet potatoes should be younger. And if these are a little bit younger than our main bed, look at this. Look at our harvest. What do you think this total weight is? 18 square feet. A harvest consumed somewhat by voles. No splitting. A harvest where most everything performed reasonably well, I would say. We enjoy our sweet potatoes right out of the ground. They taste delicious, but in order to sweeten them up even further, a lot of people let them cure. So if you want to improve your shelf life, your storage life, you want to let them cure for a couple of weeks. And we're curious what you typically do in terms of time frame for curing, but also where you cure yours and what temperature. It's an interesting question. We've read different advice on this, but we'd like to know from you. This might be indicative in some ways of the bed right behind me, because the bed right behind me was planted a little bit later even than this one. So what you need to do is to stay tuned for the rest of our harvest, because we're going to harvest from a hay bale for the first time ever. We're going to harvest from some of our different plastic bins, and we don't really know if there's going to be much of a difference between them, but again, multiple varieties of bins, and we still have several raised beds, including our main raised bed to harvest from, and there are multiple other varieties in there. These are much heavier than they look. We're going to take these, process them, and they're going to be used for multiple things, but primarily compost, both with our worms and our traditional compost. So stay tuned for that as well. Well, I'm happy. I'd have to say we're happy. Anytime you can pull sweet potatoes like this, you know the end result is going to be you're going to have food for weeks to come. And in our case, I think with everything else that we're growing, we're going to have food all winter. I hope. But you have to come back to see. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Leave us a comment and let us know. Tell us how your sweet potato harvests are going. We hope that you consider this as a crop for you in the future. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And as always, remember, when you're with us, you're good to grow.